Hey guys, Candy here. Happy Valentine's Day. Like I said in the many posts, uh, I was gonna play either this game, Our Life, or Life After Magic. And so both polls came in, and the grand total of votes for both sides was 0. No one voted. So I had to flip a coin and I ended up on this. Let's begin, I guess. Welcome to Our Life, beginning and always. This is I'm 6 minutes in and I'm just reading the freaking tutorial. You get to pick your interest, comforts. I'm just gonna skip the rest of this. See when the game actually starts. Summer in Sunset Bird was a special time of year. Your usually sleepy town began to bustle. It was a popular tourist destination with people coming from all over to enjoy the beach, weather, and the relaxation that came with both. The smell of the ocean, crisp and salty, hung in the air, bringing 3 whole months of schoolless vacation with it. During the summer, your moms didn't like you to wander too far outside your neighborhood, so you knew the area pretty well. That included the people. Families came and went from Sunbird, but they mostly stayed and did what your mom called putting down roots. They built businesses, they got to know each other, and they definitely said hello to the nice kids who waved when passing by their stores. Going for a walk around town mostly meant the familiar. Friendly residents waved or asked how your family was, or most often just said hello. Alright. Oh, we get our first option. You didn't really get why they always had to say hello. They saw you every day, but you nodded back at them anyway. Okay, that's option number 1. You ended up saying hello, or saying hi to a lot of different people, since most of the tourists that came and went every summer were the same ones. You were too anxious to say hi back to most of the other residents that greeted you, but they knew you well enough to expect that. Honestly, I think I'm going with the third one, because that sounds kind of more like me, because when my grandpa was around, he had diabetes, and the doctor told him that to help out with that, he would go on daily walks, and whenever me and my sister were around, he'd bring us with on his daily walks, and he'd go around saying hi to everybody, and meanwhile I was just way too shy to say hi to anybody. I'd say hi to like a couple people if like my grandpa really wanted me to say hi to them, but yeah, let's go with this one. They smiled at you anyway, and that made you feel a little more comfortable. But today, there was this man sitting on the curb outside your house. He was sitting with his hand. I don't know what is wrong with me. I cannot read. He was sitting with his head in his hands, his whole body slumped over, and you wondered if he was even a real person. Well, why would he? Oh, okay, that makes more sense. Or a statue that had magically sprung up from the ground overnight. Whoever or whatever he was, you had never seen him before. One thing about knowing everyone in Sunbird was that people who you didn't recognize really stood out. It was rare for tourists to venture into the residential district, as your mom's called it. So for you, not knowing a total stranger was set off a lot of red flags, okay? Your mom's had a talk with you and your big sister Lizzie. I don't have a big sister, I have a big brother. I'm the big sister, my sister's younger than me, and then I have a little brother. There's 4 of us. About this kind of situation before. I'm gonna get some water. You hadn't exactly been listening at the time. You think it could be okay to talk to a new person? You think it'd be okay to talk to new people, okay? They mentioned that some people aren't good to talk to, but other types of people can help you even if you don't know them. Okay? You remember that it's okay to run away if you feel uncomfortable. You don't have to worry about being polite then. I'm gonna go with this one. You weren't sure about this man yet. You still felt a bit scared knowing he was blocking the way to your front door, but you were pretty interested. You wanted to know more about what was going on. Whether he was nice or not, you didn't want to be bothered. Let me see. Between these two for me. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Catch a tiger by the toe. If he hollers, let him go. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. My mama told me to pick the very best one, and you are... Okay, we're going with this one then. You slowed down, your eyes remaining fixed on the man. There's a split second where your eyes met, and you knew he was aware he wasn't alone on the street anymore. Hey! You raised your eyebrows at the shout. Did he want something? Is that why he was here? The man stood up and started to make his way towards you. Not wanting to seem too approachable, you folded your arms and stared. Still unsure about him, you were willing to be friendly enough. Okay. Your whole body was frozen in place as he approached. That seems more realistic. Do you live around here? What's your name? The man looked up and down. His tan skin, relaxed appearance, at least his clothes were relaxed. The way he was acting wasn't. He had sharks on his shorts and a stingray tattoo. Okay, so the voice I was giving him was probably off. He's probably like a surfer dude, I guess. You wondered if he was obsessed with the ocean or something. He's definitely a surfer dude. While you made your assessment, he looked at you expectantly, waiting for an answer to his question. Yeah, I live here. I live right there. I'm gonna go with the first one because I am kind of curious on how this is gonna play out. That's great. He looked happy to hear it, giving you a broad smile. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a clean $20 bill. It crinkled in his hand as he held it up to you. Even more confusion than before, you looked back at him.
Well...
Can you do me a favor? That's a Valley Girl. Oh, whatever, I'm just gonna get... Whatever. Can you do me a favor? Nothing bad, I'm just... Sorry, I should've... Let me start over. He cleared his throat and stood up straighter. Where you were standing, he just made him look more creepy. It just made him look creepier. I have a son. His name's Cove. Who's about your age. Cove, that seemed like a strange name for an actual living person. You chewed the inside of your cheek. This guy definitely obsessed with water. We thought that was pretty cool. I guess I'll go with the first one. But definitely the kind of name someone like this guy would give their kid. We moved here across the street, see? He gestured toward the house that had been empty for a year. His watch catching the late afternoon sunlight and reflecting off the walls. The gigantic for sale sign was finally gone. See? You must be Candy-Belle. I put Dalmatian as the last name because I couldn't think of anything. Plus my character's a Dalmatian. He was Candy-Dalmatian, right? I met your mom earlier. They told me you were 8, just like him, so... He shook the $20 bill to bring it back to your attention. Hopeful smile tilting his lips at the corners. Can you try to be friends with my boy? Just give him a chance. You can keep this. He's a good kid. You'll like him.
Do you mind?
But you gotta keep it a secret too, okay? It wouldn't be friendly to say your dad sent you. You eyed the man. You kind of felt sorry for Cove. Did the other kids really get their parents to... Did other kids really get their parents to pay for friendships? I'm gonna go with this one because I think this is funny. You had your mom done that for you and Lizzie? The thought made you frown. What do you say? Want to make a deal? Yeah. I'm gonna take the money. Heck yeah. You carefully plucked the bill from his outstretched hand, grinning at the thought of what you could do with this much cash. All the sweets you could ever want. You could buy a ticket to the newest movie at the cinema. There was a cute stuffed animal in town. Okay, that would... Huh. Okay, I'm gonna go with this one, because as a kid I probably would have picked this for this, so I'm gonna go with this one. It was gonna be able to go home with you. And that was just the start, you thought. The sky was the limit with this kind of amount. The man smiled, his eyes crinkling at the sides as he did. Great, that's great. I'll bring him tomorrow. I wanted him to meet and greet with the neighbors today, but well, I don't know. Where he's gone off to. He laughed when he said that, but with the way his face looked, you thought he wanted to. He wanted to cry. Did you see him? Can you tell him to come home? He's got a pink cast and glasses. Can't miss him. Sure thing. This definitely wasn't normal way kids made friends. You knew that, but you were still going to help. The man smiled and reached out and to pat you on the head. Paused before doing so, then pulled back his hand away instead. Her moms are already checking around for me. Such a thoughtful group you are. I didn't read that. It's actually his dad talking. Now I better go look too. Can't put everyone else to work while I keep sitting here. I thought he might come back, and that's not what's important. I have to go. See you again, Candy. So much. Oh, thanks again, Candy. So much. He jogged off down the street without another word. You decided to check the hills behind your house. Alright. Step 1. First sight. The chirping of crickets in the tall grass greeted you, quiet and familiar. From the top of the hill you could see the ocean. As you walked, you listened to the crash of the waves on the shore and the seagulls squawking as they settled down for the night. This place sounds awesome. I want to be here. You always loved the ocean. It was so much fun. You loved to hear. I like this one. Sometimes you could almost convince yourself you had seen a flash of shiny mermaid tail in the distance. I read that incorrectly. I'm sorry if I'm reading this incorrectly. I'm trying my best here. I probably shouldn't. I wanted to play a dating sim game for Valentine's Day because I don't really have anything to do on Valentine's Day. But that's a story for another day. You took a deep breath. You wanted to try and relax, but you couldn't. You weren't sure what, but something told you weren't alone, so you glanced around. There was a boy sitting on top of the hill, almost completely hidden within the dark, within the long grass, white flowers surrounding him. Sarah's head was buried in his knees, staring ahead by himself. Whatever reason, probably just that he wasn't paying attention. He hadn't noticed you yet. You watched him for a minute longer, feeling a little bit like you found a deer in the wild. Though deer didn't have I don't know, I'm just gonna pick at random. Eyes closed, and that one. Oh. Okay, I don't know which one I picked. This new boy did. You wondered what could have upset him. After a few seconds, you took a step forward, then another. Then he glanced your way. His aquamarine eyes reflected the light of the moon. You stopped, raising a hand to acknowledge him and showed you weren't scary. Okay, I'm just gonna say hi. With a start, he jumped to his feet, his hands balling into fists at his side. He didn't say anything, he just stared at you in a strange way. He'd been crying. Aw. There was traces of tears on his cheeks and his knees, soaking the hem of his shorts. His eyes were still shining with a few more. You'd obviously caught him off guard. His pink cast seemed to glow in the twilight, though he caught you staring at it. He hid his arm behind his back. Okay, right. Something the man earlier had said struck out to you. Cove? Ah. Eyes wide, he studied you. How'd you know that? You touched the money in your pocket, feeling it crinkle beneath your fingertips. Not gonna lie, I'm just gonna say, oh. So, is this your hill? He gestured with his uninjured arm to a patch of grass surrounding you, his face falling at the prospect. I can leave if it is. Well, that just makes sense. Can't. Why not? How could you? You just do. I'd a hill back home. Well, this still isn't mine. Oh. He sat back down with a thump, resting his chin on his knees again. Curious about the strange new boy with the odd dad, you sat in a patch of grass next to him. Pure white flowers covered this hill, walked back and forth gently as the stars twinkled above. This place sounds awesome. Why can't I be there? The way they dotted the sky made it seem like flowers too. The night wind was cool as it traveled over the ocean and up the hills, chasing away the heat of the afternoon sun. A quiet hiccup escaped Cove as soon as he asked that question. Almost like they never stopped, the tears started up again with a vengeance. My parents. They don't want to live together with me anymore. The tears fell as fast and heavy over his flushed cheeks, sticking in his dark lashes. My mom made me and my dad leave, and he took me with him, and now we have a house here, and I want to go home. The outburst took you off guard. By the time he was done wailing, Cove's chest was heaving with exhaustion. He sniffled and removed his glasses, wiping his eyes with the back of his hand before he put them back on again. I hate this place. I want my real life back. I want my mom. I'm gonna go with, yeah. He slipped his hands underneath his glasses, pressed his fingers against his eyelids. Cove wound himself up again with another long crying fit. He felt bad for him, being forced to come here with no choice. Couldn't imagine what it would feel like to live with only one of your moms. But it would be pretty hard. It must be pretty hard. But from the far off distance, you heard your parents. Candy. Cove. Kids, where did you go? Cove looked at you, tears still clinging to his cheeks. Don't tell them we're here.
I want to go home.
I don't want to go back to that house. I want to go home. I mean, eeny, meeny, miny, that one. Stretching as you stood, your head tilted back, down to look at Cove. I can't lie to my moms about where you are, you know? And they're gonna help him. They're gonna tell him. Slowly, Cove stood up with you, still looking a little reluctant. His dad's voice rang out again. Cove, can you hear me? He looked towards the sound of his dad's voice, silent, then turned away, while rubbing his not bandaged arm. Sorry, I still don't want to go. I'm gonna go with this one. Are you sure? You'd have to stay outside the whole night and sleep on the wet grass. Cove couldn't say anything else. You heard his dad's voice again, even closer than before. Cove, there you are, bud. A trio of parents appeared over the curve of the hill, and instantly all their eyes landed on you, and they rushed over. Both of your moms were at your side in a split second, faces filled with worry. Candy, you're here after all? We had been at the park to check for Cove, and then we heard what happened earlier when you met the new neighbor. I thought you might have gone off further away. No, we were just sitting in the grass. Why is everybody acting like it's a big thing? We're okay, don't worry. Cove didn't... I'm gonna go with... Oh, I accidentally skipped. Oh well. Were you two having fun out here? You looked at Cove, who was still wiggling against his dad's tight hug and pushing his out at his arms. He's new here. It was okay. Finally letting go of his squirming, sprawling gun, Cove's dad turned to the three of you.
That's okay.
Thanks very much for finding him. Really don't know this neighborhood. Good thing Candy knows the whole area so well. Absolutely. We should be getting home now. It's been a long day for all of us. Say goodbye, Cove.
Bye.
Bye. The two of them walked off into the darkness, heading towards the neighborhood. You watched Cove's bright pink cast until it disappeared. Tell you what. We'll have a proper playdate tomorrow, okay? Your new friend's dad wanted to bring him to see you and Lizzie. How does that sound? It sounds like words. Of course. Okay then. Both your moms laughed, the sound of overlapping into the warm, familiar chorus. Mommy put her arm around your shoulder and led you towards the path. Satisfied, and more than a little ready to go to bed after your long, exciting day, you followed them home. Ooh. Okay, I get a choice. Choose your feelings for Cove. How do you feel towards Cove? The first step. Change later. Huh. I'll go with that for now. Okay. Won't be able to change until step 2. That's fine. Early the next morning, you were poking at your food, eating it slowly. Your sissy... Your sister Lizzie had run out earlier to go play, but you stayed put. Today, just like your moms had promised, Cove was coming over to hang out today. Excited to see your new friend again, Candy? Maybe we can become friends.
Okay.
With that said, are you done with your breakfast? The bowl was entirely empty, so you nodded. Huh. I don't know, am I? That's because I'm gonna give a smart answer. You gestured down at the empty dish in front of you, raising your eyebrows dramatically.
Okay.
Okay, we see. Good job. You should be here soon. Clean up began, and then, on cue, there was a knock. It was a little hesitant, like a person wasn't sure they were in the right place. Still loud, though. We need to get a more obvious doorbell. I know. Candy, could you get it? Yeah, sure. Because Mom said so, you wandered over to the door. Hey, Dalmatian family. Thanks for having us. Mr. Holden, as your moms had called him, and his son were here. Cove looked different in the bright lighting of your living room, and when he wasn't crying. His dad standing in front of him, Mom and Mommy behind you. You and Cove looked at each other. You studied Cove apathetically. This was the parents' plan, not yours. That's mean. Not seeming any more excited than you were, he just stared back. Do you want to go play in your room, Candy? Sure. Come on, it's upstairs.
Okay.
Okay.
Take care.
Let us know if you need anything, you two. Have fun, kids.
See you.
See you later, son. Play nice. You led him to your room, puffing out your chest with a little bit at the sight of your treasures. There were lots of stuffed animals, a cool bed, a window lookout. It was a great room. You hadn't had anyone to show it to for a while, but you were really proud of it. You leaned a little closer to one of your drawings on the wall. I like this. Cool. You smiled at him. You were proud of this particular piece of art, and you were glad he had noticed it. He turned around. He turned to look around the room a little more, studying the books on the desk and the pictures on the wall. Well, I'll go with that. He wanted to say something, but didn't know what. So you let him keep looking. Then his eyes landed on a tiny box of beach things you collected, tucked away by your door. He took a step forwards before hesitating and pointing at it instead. What's that? A hoard of stuff I found at the beach.
Oh.
You have any driftwood in there? Dragging the box into the middle of the room, you and Cove flopped down next to it. I think so. Yeah, see? He gestured to the piece at the bottom, still covered in specks of sand.
Neat.
Neat. This is a good collection. You got the sense from before the... Yeah, that. You got the sense from the tone of his voice that he wasn't just saying that to be nice. Or to be like... What does that mean? To be like Shiloh. He actually meant it. Oh, right. I almost forgot. Shiloh's gonna be here today. Shiloh? Lizzie's friend. Or like, her #1 fan, I guess. Do I have to see him? It should be okay. I mean, he's Lizzie's friend, not mine. You know. Come on. Check out my seashell some more. I found this big one under a big piece of seaweed that had washed ashore, and he pulled out seashell after seashell, explaining where he'd gotten each one, holding them up against the light. There were big ones, small ones, pink, purple, orange. Most of them you washed off in the bathroom sink when you brought them home, cleaning off the sand. Over the past few years, you've even learned their scientific names. The collection was huge and varied. You had a lot of funny stories to tell about them. I'm gonna go with this one, because that sounds more like something I would do. Apparently fascinated either by the stories or by the shells themselves, Cove listened with what looked like the full force of his attention. Like when you almost got pinched by a hermit crab while searching for shells. After watching him scuttle back into the ocean, you found another empty shell that was almost a twin to his home. It was a new experience to be at the center of such dedicated focus, even if it was directed at seashells. Kids, come sit down to the living room. You could tell the idea of making him unhappy. You could tell the idea was making him unhappy, but Mommy wasn't giving you much of a chance to hang around. Cove hadn't been like this meeting you. You guessed it was because he was thinking, he thinks you found each other by accident, not that the parent made it happen. Mr. Holden must be right that telling Cove his dad was part of this was a bad idea. Before you knew it, you'd been escorted downstairs and deposited into the living room, ready for Shiloh's visit. Two of you sat side by side on the floor of your home's entryway. I brought the box of seashells. I want to keep looking at them. Yeah, okay. I will. You weren't sure if you could trust someone else with your treasure yet, so you stayed next to him while he opened the lid and peered inside. Cove reached in and pulled out a big orange seashell. Oh. Like he hadn't spoken aloud yet, he turned to you and held it up, his eyes shining. I think this one's the best one of them. I mean, I'm gonna be nice. I'm gonna let him have it. Cove looked surprised, his eyes going wide. Really? Sure. You like it a lot, right? Yeah. I mean, uh-huh. But I don't want to take it from you, or it's okay. You got the impression he was hesitant to accept something because he didn't know you very well. It's okay. For you. You pushed the seashell against Cove's chest, willing him to receive the present. The Cove firmly shook his head and kept his arms tightly at his sides. It wasn't a battle you could win, at least not today. Cove was your neighbor now. Maybe you could give it to him another time. The two of you were sitting still on the floor, looking through the collection of beach findings when the doorbell finally rang. Cove jumped, startled by the sound. Since the person had knocked, you figured it was probably Shiloh. He knew where to look for that. Lizzie's friend. You nodded. Oh, I accidentally hit. Cove didn't hide his feelings very well. You could tell what he was thinking right away. This isn't a good idea. He'll be alright. He's here, we can't tell him to leave. What the heck? No one. My Siri just went off. On my iPad. That was weird. Who do you want to message? No one. I don't want to message anyone. I don't even know things like across the table from me. I didn't touch it. That was weird. Anyways. He's here, we can't tell him to leave. What the frick? What the frick, Siri? Okay. That keeps happening, that's spooky. Spooky. Man, where was I? He's at our only door, and if you want to go upstairs, he'll find you. Cove glanced around the room, his eyes wide. He finally paused with his gaze locked onto the back of the house. I can go out the window. He was already walking towards it. Scrambling to think of something to say, he stepped forward and then paused. You want to break your other arm? Shiloh's like the scary person alive. Cheer up, Shiloh's gonna like you. Please don't get hurt. I'll come with you. Good idea, let's go. Hurry. Then I'll see where we're going. Glanced back at you, then nodded. The two of you made your way to the window together. It wasn't much of a distance to clamber out, but by the time you had landed gently into the bushes, You looked up to see Clove was already taking off away from the house. He was fast, but you knew you could outrun him if you had to. He was fast, but you knew you could outrun him if you. These are the same things. Oh, he was not fast. Okay, that's. He was fast, he's not fast. He's not fast, but neither were you. Cove, I'm coming. Ran as fast as your legs would take you, grass whipping around your ankles as you did so. Cautiously, Cove slowed to a halt and looked back at you. Where are you going? I don't know. Somewhere else. I just wanted to see... Candy! You looked back and saw Shiloh huffing down the hill after you. The backpack he clutched bouncing around along the way. What are you doing? Can I come? He must have seen you leaving out the window and followed behind. Okay. Well, now the voice I gave him doesn't fit. Oh. Hi. How are you, Cove? Yeah. I'm Shiloh. Okay. Yep. Are we going back? Are we gonna play outside? Shiloh's eyes moved between you and Cove. The smile remained strong on his face. It got a tiny frown from Cove in response. We were just grateful he hadn't asked you why you had been running away. That would be... Inside, we left... Oh. Inside, we left the box on the floor. Right, my seashells and stuff. We have to make sure they're okay. Okay! With Shiloh trailing behind you, you and Cove headed back towards the house. Plan for the afternoon, at least as far as you were concerned, was to sit and look at the beach things some more. You weren't really in the mood to do much of anything else. Hey, check it out! The scallop shell I found. Cool, right? It's a pretty color. Kinda like my cast. The beautiful glittering pink did look a little bit like the wrap around his arm. Pink is a nice color. Okay.
Oh?
Is it your favorite color? Not really. What is? Maybe green or blue. Might be yellow. Those are all cool. I guess. Yeah, I like those colors too. Awesome! Like usual, it didn't take long for Shiloh to get fidgety. Lizzie was his favorite. Without her around, Shiloh didn't seem to know what to do with himself. Cove wasn't like your sister. He wasn't much like you either. Is Lizzie coming back? Don't know. Aw. Where'd she go? I think she's at the beach probably. Is she playing at her park? Cove's eyes lit up at the mention of the park. He looked towards you. There's a park? Yeah, but it's old. Can you show me? I want to go. He started to get up before you had even answered, Shiloh jumped beside him in excitement. Really? You do too? Hi, Candy. The park is fun. The park is pretty great. Yeah, right at the beach. There's a lot of stuff to do, and lots of sand. There's a jungle gym, and a bunch of swings. That sounds... That sounds like it. That sounds like it could be cool. So, are we going to find Lizzie? I don't know. I never really wanted to see her. Hello. I just wanted to check out the park. Adrift without any direction, Shiloh turned to you. Okay. He perked up. Both boys wanted to go. It was only fair. After getting permission from your moms, the three of you were ready to head out. It was a short walk to the park. Lizzie had convinced your moms that it was so short she'd always be allowed to walk there by herself. When you found her, she was hanging on the jungle gym, swinging back and forth. Hey, Lizzie. Her face lit up when she saw you. Her big brown eyes growing wide. Candy, Shiloh. I don't know what voiceover. Candy, Shiloh. Hi. She dropped to the ground and landed with a soft thud on the sand. In a split second, Shiloh had abandoned you two and scrambled over to stand by her. You were used to being left out when it was just the three of you. But now Cove was here. You weren't sure if it was an improvement. That's a little mean. Who's that? It's Cove. He's new. Hi. I remember. Cove, hi. Welcome to my park. Nobody comes here to play, so this is where we hang out together. She gestured wildly with her arms, presenting the area to the newcomer. Without interrupting Lizzie's speech, Cove whispered into your ear, quiet enough the others wouldn't overhear. I thought kids couldn't own places like parks or hills. You couldn't help but laugh a tiny bit. While Lizzie continued talking, you two you took the chance to kick off your shoes and wiggle your toes through the warm sand. Nice, huh? This neighborhood. In this neighborhood, I'm one who comes up with the best ideas, or comes up with the ideas. You are? Yeah. Who else could handle that job? Lizzie's the oldest. By a lot. My mom said you're Candy's age?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thought so. I'm still the only one in the group with double digits. What about the other kids? Other kids? There aren't any. They're the only kids here, and Shiloh is just visiting from another place. Not even tourists really bring their kids here. This is land of the ancients. Now, be careful with the oldies. They don't try and steal your youth. Oh. For a second, it looked like he might cry again. Aw. Something in his eyes shifted and looked back at Lizzie. What kind of old people? Like moms, dads, or grandparents. Grandparents who don't have kids. They hate kids. Why? We haven't done anything. Why? We haven't done anything. You interject quickly, hoping Lizzie wouldn't take things too far. Cove sniffled his forehead, creasing with worry. Lizzie staring down at Cove. Cove wasn't even looking at her anymore. He didn't seem to care that she was there. He went into his own head. Shiloh was the next one to speak, completely unaware of the situation. I met Lizzie and Candy in school. You'll see tons of kittens there once summer is over. I don't want to go to a new school. I don't want summer to end. Shiloh looked down at the dirt. He hadn't had much luck striking up conversations with Cove. I like summer vacation too. All the building tension in the air suddenly vanished when Lizzie laughed. At Shiloh's discomfort, at how weird she thought Cove was, at something else entirely, you didn't really know, but she laughed, her face scrunching up.
Okay.
Well, welcome to Sunset Bird Cove. Take a seat and put up your feet and get used to it. Ugh. Oh, is right. The rest of the summer, Cove was always there. We saw him more often than Shiloh, and on some days, when she was in a bad mood or busy, you even saw him more than Lizzie. He became a staple in your everyday life. The way the sun and lunch and beach were. The first summer you hadn't really been interested in him one way or another. He was just kind of a fact of life, someone you met with because he was there. Of course, that was only the start of things. Ooh, fire sandcastle. Ooh. These all sound fun. Sandcastle. Cove wasn't able to do many things that summer. When you and him and Shiloh sat on the shoreline on a bright morning, you could tell he wanted to be in the water. But there was no way he'd be able to swim anytime soon. Not with his cast. The waves washed a single shell to shore, glittering and blue, another reminder of the place he couldn't go. From what you had heard Cove's old life so far, in tiny pieces and fragments. Oh, okay, I read that wrong. Okay, you could tell that he'd do anything to be able to get this cast off, like make a pact with a witch or something, just to let it off his arm, to get it off his arm. He thought about how his summer last year must have been totally different from this, with his old home and his mom and dad. But now he was here, with you, and Shiloh and Lizzie, and everyone else. And he couldn't even go in the sea. This town wasn't bad. It had all your favorite things, but sitting there on the same beach you'd grown up on, you couldn't understand that not everybody felt the same way about Sunset Bird as you. You watched him from the corner of your eye. Quietly, he finally said aloud what you had been pondering. I wish I could go in. The water? Yeah.
Oh,
I'm sorry. Are you gonna be able to do it soon? Cove only sighed in response. Apparently soon wasn't soon enough. It's pretty, the ocean. And huge. There could be anything out there, like mermaids.
yeah.
Yeah! No, I'm not going with that. I'm gonna go with this one. But it's not like there's anything we can do about it. Obviously not interested in hearing much about your input on the situation. Cove turned back to the water. But as he looked away, something about Shiloh's slow, careful movements caught his eye. Hey, are you building a sandcastle? Sort of. I was only playing around while you were talking. I'm listening. Maybe I could too. I've only made big piles of sand before. Really? It's nothing special. I'm sure you'll be good at it right away. Well, how do you do it then? Charles' cheeks lit up. You could tell he was a little bit uncomfortable to have Co's expectant stare at him. I'll play too. I always make sandcastles every time I go to the beach. They're never anything special. But like he said, just piles of dirt, and then I just pile a bunch of seashells and stuff every time. But I try my best, and they're really fun to do. Okay. He put his hands back on his seashells and sand and nodded. I don't do a lot. Here's how I like to get the house started. Shiloh, focusing more intently than you'd ever seen him, guided Cove through the process. You happily used your own method. It didn't take long for the three of you to each have humbled structures prepared. And that's all, kind of. If you can do anything now, like make it bigger, add some seashells, carve pretty patterns. I bet you'll have great ideas.
Okay.
I'm gonna make it bigger. Mine is gonna be a real castle. Cool! This is gonna be a house. Looking at the base of your sandcastle, you decided to make... I'm gonna make a castle. 2. Looking at the base of your sandcastle, you decided to build a fancy castle. The better part of the next hour was spent focusing on your own work. The boys were the same. Even Shiloh didn't sneak as many peeks at everyone else's as he usually did. He finally finished shaping before either of them did, glancing up at what you built. It seems you got done so fast because they were already searching around for extra decorations. Shiloh had grabbed most of the really interesting stuff. Cove had a lot of seashells, but there were still options. The first thing you reached for was... Let me go with that. it was the best fit for your castle, you decided. The blue color reminded you of the water. So you put it in a funny place where it'd take a second look to see it. Pleased with your result, you finally took a proper look around and sorry about that. Wasn't focused on the sand itself. Both Cove and Shiloh seemed immersed. Still, you knew you could probably sneak peek at either one's work. The Castle Cove built looked surprisingly tidy, especially for someone in a cast. He must have really worked hard. He wasn't even finished digging a huge gaping moat in the front, but it was already enormous. You got a sense from the enthusiasm he was digging with. That doctor was probably going to find a bunch of sand when he was finally removed. Why can't I read? I'm having such a hard time with this. I'm sorry, you guys. This is probably painful to listen to. The silence was then broken. What's on the top of yours, Shiloh? You peeked closer and saw something shiny sticking out of Shiloh's sand chimney. Oh, it's a gum wrapper. It looks like smoke.
Neat.
Good. It's good. That's smart. You did good at it, Shiloh. Shiloh smiled without a word. And that was the current topic. Candy, can I see what you did? Sure. He began surveying your work. The castle you'd built was pretty impressive. All things considered, it had archways, tall walls, even a little moat circling it. You would probably feel safe living there. Maybe your moms were the queens. Shiloh quickly jumped to the new conversation. Hey Candy, what did you do? This is my castle. Shiloh didn't look happy anymore. You both built castles?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Aw.
That's neat. You guys match. It's too bad we didn't all do it. Next time we should. Wouldn't that be boring? If something is the only one of that makes it special. Yeah. Sandcastles and stuff. People too. My dad always says everybody is their own man. A real individual. I don't think I'm very special. Aw, don't say that, Shiloh.
Why?
Why not? Nobody else is you. Shiloh simply shook his head. I'm not different. A beat passed between the two. Cove then looked at his own work again. Okay. He didn't seem bothered. Didn't seem to be bothered leaving the disagreement hanging in there. Cove had other things on his mind. My dad tried getting me to make sandcastles the first time we came to this beach. I didn't want to. Cove trailed off. Again, There was another moment of silence. Shiloh shifted and opened his mouth to say something, but Cove spoke up before he could. He didn't think he'd notice Shiloh was going to talk. Hey, you know what happened when your moms met my dad, Candy? He waited to see if Shiloh would say anything. See if Shiloh would say what he wanted to. When he didn't, you considered Cove's question. I wasn't there. They didn't tell me. I just remember what happened when I met your dad. Mr. Holden had been a weird stranger then, but he was still kind of strange. No other parent acted like him. But you knew better at this point. Now that you thought about it, it made a lot of sense that Cove's dad talked to him about people being unique. You pulled from your thoughts when Cove continued. Oh, well, I was there. I don't think my mom has met your dad. Oh, that's Shiloh, not Cove. I don't think my mom has met your dad. Yeah, I'm pretty sure she hasn't. Candy's parents and my dad met the same day I met her. I'm gonna say what happened. Shiloh frowned to himself, ducking his head. His hat cast a shadow over his face. You could still tell he was upset not being included in Cove's choice of topic. This was kind of boring for him, though giving people their own turn to say the thing they want to say is important too. I feel bad for Shiloh. Huh? We were talking. Just not right now. I'm talking to you. He can listen. That's rude. Shiloh's expression barely flickered at the words. He still looked put off. Cove continued like the interaction hadn't happened. He was determined to tell his tale. When we moved here, we didn't bring a lot of stuff with us. Only some stuff that could fit in Dad's car. We didn't even get a moving truck. I sat there while Dad brought it all inside. I didn't want to get out because I knew Dad would make me look around the new house. I really didn't want to do that. His lips twisted into a frown as he recalled that. Then I saw your moms. They were in a car too, stopped at your house. I guess they were coming back from somewhere or something. My dad noticed. He waved his hand, then went over to the front of your house, where he started talking to them. I don't know what they said. I couldn't hear it. But he couldn't see me anymore since he looked the other way. So I opened the car door and left. I wanted to get away and went behind the houses. I found those hills there, the ones where we met the first time. Cove nodded. Then stared at you. You stared back. He didn't go on to say anything more. Aren't you gonna finish your story? Cove's brows wrinkled, like he didn't understand why you were surprised.
Huh?
That's all that happened. Okay. What is it? What? You said that in a weird way. I don't think I did. Cove's eyes narrowed at you, suspicious. Shiloh's mouth twisted into a scowl in disbelief. but he said nothing. Why'd you bring it up anyway? There was a slight shrug in Cove's shoulders.
Well,
I was thinking about it. Because of the sandcastle. Made me remember when I moved here. Dad showed me the beach first, before we went back to the car to unpack. He was really excited about it for some reason. Cove's eyes furrowed a little more as he quietly raked his hands through the sand. I get it. I thought maybe Mr. Holden wasn't that excited about the beach, and was instead hoping Cove might be. With the line of conversation at its end, even Cove was done with it. Some other topic had popped up into his head. Shiloh, fidgeting uncomfortably in the sand, had made Cove unaware his presence at all again. They looked at each other, and you could only wonder what it might be about. Hey, Shiloh. Yeah? Why are you always turning so red, even when nothing is happening? Clearly startled, he jerked back. Neither you or Shiloh had expected that to be how he got included in the conversation again. I don't know, I guess. Okay. It's kind of weird. Shiloh's eyes were wide and with embarrassment. Don't be mean to Shiloh. He's just a little kid. His lips twisted, and he was blushing even harder than before. Maybe it wasn't this. Perhaps it was simply the last straw. But it was a big deal to Shiloh, a huge deal. He didn't just look sad. He seemed almost panicked. You weren't sure if he was about to cry or run away or what, but you soon got your answer. Why do you wear glasses? Most kids don't wear glasses, and nobody is named Cove. Okay, that's rude.
who asked you to come?
Who asked you to come? It was probably just your dad bugging Candy's family some more, 'cause you don't have anyone else who ever played with. Oh, man. Okay, he was rude, but you're taking it way too far, dude. Cove blinked. The tension on the beach was suddenly uncomfortable. Uncomfortable in a way you didn't know how to laugh off. It didn't seem like the kind of thing he'd get upset about, though you hadn't ever known Shiloh, hadn't known what kind of thing would bother Shiloh. I'm sorry. It's a little too late. Me too. I was just wondering. I don't know. Want to keep building sandcastles?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Cove glanced at Shiloh, whose smile had returned to full power, then at you. Alright. What a relief. You were glad that it was settled. Wasn't really. I still think that's... Y'all went back to making more sand buildings. But the whole mood had changed. Shiloh's cheeriness was clearly gone, and Cove looked as confused as ever about why the other boy had blown up. The air stayed uncomfortable for the rest of the afternoon, right up until the moment Shiloh's mom appeared at the beach to take him home. At least she tried to do something to resolve it, though it seemed like it helped. Even though Shiloh's smile when he said goodbye to Cove wavered, It stayed bright as ever for you. That had to count for something. Shiloh had gone, the sun was going down. You knew it was time for you and Cove to head back to your houses. The two of you trailed off. Oh, the two of you trailed out of the park together towards the neighborhood. The walk home was quiet. You passed by familiar landmarks, shoes something against the sidewalk near perfect unison. Cove was clearly caught up thinking about something. You asked Cove what he's thinking about. Something definitely was up, so you chose to reach out to him and ask, "Hey Cove, is everything okay? You're making funny faces. You're making a funny face." Oh, I was just wondering. Cove fell silent again with a few seconds, then sighed. Why'd Shiloh act like that? When I said he was read a lot. You were being rude to him. He's just being a baby. You shouldn't have made fun of him. I don't know, he's just Shiloh. He gets embarrassed. I'm gonna go with this. Embarrassed. But I didn't say anything that bad. You might just be upset. It might have upset him anyway. I guess I can get it. Why he would do that. Sometimes I get really mad too. Despite seemingly coming to a conclusion, Cove's mood was still sour. What Shiloh said didn't make sense anyway. Parents always talk to other parents and set them up so kids play together. My dad didn't do anything weird. You struggled to make a face. You struggled not to make a face at that. His dad definitely did something weird to try and get you to spend time with Cove. Yeah, I mean, giving the kid $20 is kind of a weird day, but the Cove didn't know that. Yeah, I'm gonna be honest with him. Remember how you talked about our parents and how and I didn't know what happened? Yeah. I kind of had something to tell that happened you don't know about when I met your dad. As you struggled to find the right words, Cove looked at you passively. When you wanted to turn away, but you kept your eyes on him and spoke as you spoke. I was walking home and your dad was sitting in front of the house. It must have been after you ran away. My moms weren't there either. I think they were looking for you. Your dad saw me. He got up, came over. Mr. Holden told me that he just moved in to the house next to mine. Cove was listening, his expression as plain as before. You paused for a moment, wondering if you really should keep going. Even if it was supposed to be a secret, you thought Cove still should know. Your dad thought he might be lonely here. He wanted me to be your friend. He said he'd give me $20 if I did. Cove was still. You thought he hadn't heard you. Then his eyes widened and his mouth fell open, but no sound left him. The silence stretching between you was tense, it was almost tangible. You shifted from one foot to the other, your hands tensing up. Please say something. Instead of speaking, he closed his mouth, his eyes bent down, crinkling his forehead. Oh no. Cove covered his hands and brought his... Oh. Maybe I shouldn't have said. I felt bad for not saying anything, but I feel bad for saying something now. Ah. His shoulders forced. Oh, man. Okay. You couldn't go anywhere with Cove in this state. The Cove shook his body side to side, rejecting your presence.
No.
Go away! You flinched at the shout as you stood there, listening to him cry. You felt you wished you were still making sandcastles at the beach. Before Cove was sad and Shiloh was mad. Everything had been so much fun back then. But Cove continued to weep, with his face covered by his hands. Worse, his voice raised in volume. You were frozen in place. The situation was awful. You kept feeling worse every second. You didn't know what to do. Cove to stop Cove from crying, but you began to panic. But you realized your eyes were misting over. Then you were crying with him. You couldn't stop. You heard a door open. You flinched, expected to see one of the mean old grandparents preparing themselves to yell at you. At this hour, most people weren't around, either because they were working or down in the town, but the grandparents rarely left the house, except to complain at the children making noise in the street. With the ruckus Cove was making, you kind of understand why they may have some objections, even if you couldn't help it. The door stood open, and it didn't belong to the grandparents, but to the other spot. It was a relief. It was Cove's own. His dad already home. He peeked out his door. Mr. Holden momentarily looked unsure. Perhaps he had suspicions of the noise outside, but wasn't entirely positive. Though a kid crying is pretty distinct, and there aren't a lot of kids. Maybe he didn't want to believe something might be wrong with his son. His face fell as he spotted the source of the commotion. It was pained, and it was scared, and it reminded you of the one he'd worn the first night you'd met Cove. Holden didn't go down to the steps at the front of the house. He jumped right over them, stumbled into a run. He skipped to a stop before Cove bent down to his knees and slowly cupped Cove's teary face in his hands.
What's wrong?
What's wrong? Are you hurt? What's wrong? Are you hurt anywhere? Cove continued to cry, unwilling to cough out an explanation. Not taking his hands from Cove, Mr. Holden turned to you for an explanation, his eyes wide and imploring. He was asking if you made me hang out with him. So you did. So I told Cove how you wanted to give me money to be his friend. As he spoke, Mr. Holden's chest rose while he inhaled deep, shaky breath, culminating in a gasp at your final words.
What?
Why would you? He clamped his mouth shut, shaking his head, facing his crying son again. No, it's my fault. I shouldn't have done something like that in the first place. His eyes cast down, sighing. When he spoke, it wasn't a part of a conversation anymore. It was barely loud enough to catch his words. Kenny's only a kid. Tears were streaming down Cove's face. Smiling sadly, Mr. Holden wiped Cove's cheeks with some. He furrowed his brows and looked at the ground. When he glanced up, his mouth was set with determination. Mr. Holden finally took his hands off Cove. He reached out for his wallet. Confused, he stared at the little rectangle all adults seemed to carry in some shape or form. It had been the source of all the problems. You were sure Cove wouldn't want to be reminded of that right now. Mr. Holden was clearly of a different mind to you. He inexplicably retrieved another $20 bill, rolled it up, and raised it to Cove's face. Cove's eyes widened as he tightly clamped his fingers so Mr. Holden poked his face with the bill, his nose with the bill. Cove peeked between his hands, grunted, and saw what he had been prodded with. Even if it was surrounded by sobs, you were glad that something else had finally left Cove's mouth.
Come on.
Hey, Cove. Can you stop crying? I'll give you What is wrong with this guy? Cove dropped his hands from his face. It was already... What? Sure. Not sure for the first time you questioned Mr. Holden's tactics. He had to use two hands, but okay. Mr. Holden took Cove's outstretched hand, lowered him to Cove's sides, stopping him from hiding his face again. Cove's dad wasn't going to let go. Huffing, Cove turned his whole head away, tears continuing to roll down his cheeks as he glared at the ground. You can buy a lot of cool things with that. But it can't do everything, can it? Cove didn't respond. Not even to look at his father. Mr. Holden continued. Your dad likes to make things nice for you with the money he earns. But you're smart. You know that I haven't really done anything.
I'm sorry.
I still make you sound upset. Just like right now. I'm sorry. Cove sniffed. The harsh line of his brow mellowed. Mr. Holden squeezed Cove's hands and continued. Kenny's smart too, right? Mr. Holden spoke in a soft, encouraging tone. Cove continued to calm. I have nothing to worry about. Except for me. Mr. Holden chuckled. Cove pressed his lips together, mulling over his father's words. Though the stream of tears had eased, drops still bundled in his eyes threatened to spill out. I love you, son, so much. More than anybody else. Sometimes it really makes me a little too hasty to see you happy, and I make it all worse. I'm really sorry. Scrunching his eyes tight, Cove nodded. His eyes opened again. They were red and glossy, but there were no tears left on the of his lower lashes. Aside from the occasional sniff, there was mostly back to his usual self. He swallowed. Okay. Though Cove refused to echo Mr. Holden's exact words, the sentiment seemed to be enough for his dad. He moved his hands under Cove's armpit and hoisted Cove into the air with a grin. Cove's hands flew to his glasses, holding them back from falling. Cove's lips were shut tight, all betrayed by the telltale smile of his eyes that he was trying hard to hide. Mr. Holden laughed, lowering Cove so that he securely pinned against his chest. Cove looked away, face angled toward the ground. Now that his dad could no longer see him, he was allowing himself to a smile. Mr. Holden might have missed it, but you didn't. Cove wriggled, pushing against his dad's shoulders. Can I go back down now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mr. Holden set Cove gently on the ground, waiting until his feet found their footing before releasing him entirely. I have something to do. Wait here. Cove wandered away. Mr. Holden's gaze stuck to him like glue. You sighed, eyes downcast. You felt weird that you'd only been able to stand there while the event unfolded. You weren't able to fix it. I couldn't make him feel better. Don't worry about it, please. We don't need another tragedy today. He winked at you. He winked and you weren't impressed. Hey, I mean that. The first part anyway. There's only so much you can do trying to fix someone else's mistake. He smiled sincerely at you. He's done plenty for Cove. Just the fact that you were honest with him when his own dad wasn't proves it.
That's a relief.
Thanks for being such a good kid. I hope you're still spending time with him. I hope you'll keep spending time with the boy. Yeah. As though the sound of his name summoned him, Cove returned, clutching the bill his dad had cast aside earlier. You cocked your head and Cove's dad raised an eyebrow. Cove looked at the crumpled note, then walked over and held it out to you. I stopped crying. But I don't want this. You can have it. He gave a smile. A small smile behind him. Mr. Holden was watching Cove closely, clearly relieved. He shared the feeling. Cove was making peace with the deal that happened behind his back. I'm not gonna take money. No way. Shaking your head, you pushed the note back to Cove. I don't need it. But I don't want it. You're at a stalemate. Mr. Holden hummed thoughtfully, tapping his head. He gazed at the wide sky as he pretended to give the conundrum a serious consideration. I know. You plucked the bill from Cove and tore it in two. You and Cove gasped in unison. Dad, we don't have anything. We can't do anything with it now. True. Won't work at the store like this. But now you can split it. Crouching down, he held the pieces to you and Cove. You both looked at the two halves. Neither of you reached for them. It still has value as a keepsake, a memory. And that's one of the most valuable things you can use money on.
So,
That sounds pretty cool, huh? Maybe I'm getting smarter. Wordlessly, Cove stretched out a hand and took his half. You took yours, running your fingers along the jagged edge of the bill. Mr. Holden stood up, stretching his arms out casually. Well then, it's about dinner time. It's about time for dinner. Me and the Rugrat need to go in. You should probably too. Bet your moms want to see you. Alright,
Bye.
bye.
Thanks very much.
Have a good night. Thanks, Candy. Father and son waved at you as you turned and dashed back home. The note clenched tightly in your hand. Felt lighter. Well, I'm gonna pick the next one. But this episode's been going on for like a while. So I'm gonna make a part 2 to this. Bye.